Ladies and gentlemen, now that I was removed from the chair position, I have taken a job as an announcer. I would like to welcome you to Rescue Michigan. Here is your host, Adam, along with a group of people who don't like me.
Hey, what's up, guys? Hold on. We are having some technical difficulties with Rumble, and they are going to have to miss out on that intro. Although I do know that this has happened before. I've been through it. I can fix it. So while
You did not tell me that was going to be the intro. That was hilarious.
You didn't. You apparently didn't see our most recent live stream because we had it on that one too.
I didn't. No, I'm horrible.
Okay, you're fine. All right, let me real quick see if I can get my Rumble situation squared away here. It shouldn't only take but a couple of seconds here. But welcome to Jason Mickelborg. Is it Mickelberg or Mickelborg? How do you pronounce it? I want to get it correct here.
It's Mickelborg.
Mickelborg. Okay, so it's like
just like how it's spelled.
Very good. All right, let me try to get connected on Rumble again. Come on, Rumble. You can do it. Anyway, all right. You know what? Screw Rumble. We'll have to upload again later. Welcome, everybody, to the Rescue Michigan Saturday at 8 p.m. live stream. We don't have too many of those, but we had some very interesting news in Michigan politics this week, and we are going to have our regular weekly live stream on Sunday talking about Michigan-related stuff, but we really wanted to move past the drama, start talking about state legislation, start talking about election-related stuff, but the drama just never stops in the Michigan Republican Party. We have had some interesting bits of news lately, and the first thing is this big story in Kalamazoo County. So, Jason, you are an executive committee member in the Kalamazoo County Republican Party, so you have had no shortage of drama in your county GOP. Yeah, Ellie Lawrence says now she's got a face in the name. There you go. Paula says, hello, Amber. Great to see you on again. Speaking of that, by the way, for those who don't know, I made a new little feature on my website recently. If you go to rescuemichigan.com, you might not know this, but actually the definitive archive of our videos is on our own website. You go to the articles tab here, click on videos, and you've got all of them in a nice archive right here, because sometimes they're out of order on Rumble. Sometimes we have problems like we have tonight with Rumble, and they have to get uploaded later. Sometimes they're out of sequence. Sometimes YouTube gives us censorship problems. Sometimes Rumble gives us clipping problems. So our definitive archive is on our own website, rescuemichigan.com. And we just made this new little neat feature called Browse by Guest. And you can now click on that, and you can see all of the people that have been on our stream over the last few years. Lots of people. And as it happened, it turns out that obviously our top most frequent guest would be, I don't know why it's alphabetical by first name because I have to do the last name stuff, but Shane Trejo comes in at 71 episodes he's been on, whereas Amber Harris here at 47, tied with Patty P with exactly 47 videos as well. So Amber is now going to be back in the lead, but we'll see. She'll have to come back on more frequently because Patty's been a guest a lot more frequently these days. So anyway, there you go. That is our video archive. Anyway, so the big news in Kalamazoo County, and Jason, I don't know if you want to set the table for us on this. To start with, I should just tell our audience there's like these two cases in Kalamazoo County. Both involve Kelly Sackett versus Sabrina Pritchett-Evans. The first case was filed last year by Sabrina against Kelly Sackett and the Kalamazoo County GOP. The other suit was filed much more recently, and that was by Kelly Sackett against Sabrina. So this is confusing for people. Maybe the best place to start is, I guess, with the original complaint. So before we have this suit that came up this year, the suit that came up this year is because on January 13th, the state committee had this, well, the quote-unquote state committee had this fake meeting. It's a legal meeting where they voted to remove Kelly Sackett as chair. They voted to remove a number of state committee members, et cetera, et cetera. The Kent County Court, in a separate case, said you can't do any of this stuff. That's all illegal. It's all invalid. And that's still going on in Kalamazoo. But the older case, the one that started this, was this case right here. Let me bring it up. This is the old complaint. This is this is the amended complaint. It's not even the original one. But this is the case that was brought, I want to say like May of last year. Let's see here. Bottom. Yeah, May 19th of last year. This was filed. Nicole says, correction. Sabrina is not a defendant in the current case. Well, not the case that we're talking about, Nicole. I don't know if that's what you meant. The other case, I'm pretty sure she is. I don't know, maybe Christina Karamo is. We can look at
the other case is with Rod Halcomb and that.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. Saying that he's the new chair of Kalamazoo and all that.
Yeah.
Rigmarole.
Let me just, for my own benefit, I'm going to pull up the other case just so I can double check. Complaint was filed against Halcomb, Carrie Lynn Eileaf, Emily Crawford, Robin Maxon, Christina Karamo, Daniel Hartman, Jim Kopis, and Jocelyn Benson, who has since been removed. So there you go. So that was the new case. Anyway, this is the original case. And this original case was like doing multiple different things. But the first thing was, let me go to where the counts were. And the first thing is Sabrina Pritchett-Evans is suing, saying she was improperly removed, her and other people. And so there was these 3 counts, all of which got dismissed last fall, saying that these people weren't removed properly. And so they want a judicial declaration saying this and that and this and that and this and that. And the judge actually said, well, there might be some interesting questions about whether the bylaws were violated or not, but unfortunately, you guys didn't bring those claims. So case go bye-bye. Except that there was then this other count, which was like kind of just thrown in. It's like, you guys have heard of cases, like criminal cases, where there's like a primary bad thing that was done, and then the prosecutor like tacks on these other ancillary charges just to kind of, give them something to bargain down to. But what ended up happening was the judge dismissed those other 3 counts, and this one kind of hung out there, claiming that it was libel and slander because of the fact that they claimed this was a coup d'etat. And that's defamatory, these people say, which is not how defamation law works at all. And
all the while they say it 20 times a piece every day.
Right. Yeah, if we had to like accuse them of defame.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, you have to imagine the judicial implications here. Like if the judge was to say, okay, yeah, calling this a coup is defamatory, that means that I guess every time every Democrat's ever called January 6th a coup was defamatory. I mean, there's that.
Yeah.
And not to mention, yeah, of course, all of the, and as you just said, all of these same people call the removal of Christina Karamo a coup, constantly calling that a coup. But, what does hypocrisy matter all? Anyway, so all this stuff was hanging out there for a while. Then what we covered not too long ago on our stream was this motion in limine from the prosecutors, the plaintiffs. John Smith says, why would I, John? That's the
Hi, John. We should have John on. That would be a really good show.
John's been on. Hold on. I've got a count here. John's been on my show 5 times.
John, you want to come on?
I think there were the longer times. So there.
I'd love to spend my Saturday night with some John Smith.
Anyway, let me go. What were we talking about again?
Sorry.
Oh, yeah. So they filed this complaint calling for striking and limiting defendants' witness lists, and there was all this stuff, and they were very unhappy about. Here's this funny quote here. The defendant and/or her attorney thought it would be cute and funny to send 5 videos of plaintiff Pritchett-Evans that incorporate, for the most part, body augmentation results that have been posted on the internet and have nothing to do with this case. So being that the defense answered this question with the production of the plaintiff's own videos that have zero relevance to this case, as were their interrogatories. The plaintiffs seek that this court make a ruling to order the defendants to have to use these videos if they are in fact going to try and argue that this was part of the coup to set aside Rule 9 by hostile delegates. Oh yeah, that'd have been a great thing to have happen at trial, wouldn't it? Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we have been compelled by the judge, at the request of the plaintiffs, to play you this video. And here's the video.
My YouTube. Welcome to my YouTube channel. This is my second video, and I am explaining or telling all about my mommy makeover, which is a breast augmentation with a lift,
yes,
a extended tummy
and
tuck,
she went to Tijuana for the
section, and then a fat
augmentations, I guess,
is
allegedly
to my booty. And I just want to round my booty out. I keep saying that because people are like, "Oh, she's gonna have a Nicki Minaj." No, I'm not trying to have a Nicki Minaj. I'm just trying to have a rounder booty. And so coronavirus, I am not trying to feel you right now.
And this goes on for a little bit. I cut out the part where she's complaining about how her boobs are small, but yeah, she's talking about having the fat sucked out of her stomach and injected back up into her ass. So that's
it's all on YouTube, and there's a series.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, yeah, this is what is in these court filings, ladies and gentlemen. That's what this is right here. That's what we were just looking at. So this case then goes to this motion that came in 2 days ago. This is March 7th, and this is now from Kelly Sackett's side, by and through attorney Matt DePerno Law Office, moves this court for immediate rehearing or reconsideration. And I don't have the document that preceded this one, but surely we can tell what's going on based upon what they're talking about here. Apparently, there was a hearing the day prior. Jason, and this is where you can fill me in, buddy. Was there a hearing on Thursday?
So yeah, I believe there was a hearing. Yeah, there was a hearing. They've been having little motions and hearings for like the past week. And it's just they're just little motions to dismiss, and they were trying to get the jury instructions. I think this one might have been for the jury instructions or something. I'm not sure, but I know they were working on jury instructions before Judge Bell just dismissed the case. So
yeah, so that's now you've given away the ending. Spoiler alert.
Well,
case dismissed.
Yeah,
case dismissed. The judge ended up throwing
it was Wednesday.
Once and for all. So this was filed on Thursday. This is the defendants, Kelly Sackett, Republican Party, Kalamazoo, emergency motion and brief for rehearing or in the alternative reconsideration, meaning, Judge, you did something wrong. And here's what they say here. First off, libel is different than defamation per se. They are separate claims. I don't think we need to get in. By the way, socks on my feet. Correct. Rumble is not working. My bad. We will upload this video to Rumble after the stream is over. Sorry, folks. That's just the way that goes sometimes. Anyway, without getting into the details of this. So what's happened in this case is that originally they were arguing defamation because coup d'etat is, to say that they called it a coup d'etat was defamatory, which is complete nonsensical gibberish. So then they came back and they said, actually, it's defamation per se, which meaning by itself. Like if I say, I don't know, Trucker Randy Bishop is a convicted felon, that would be defamation per se, unless it's true. Then it's actually still defamatory. But
say, is it true? Like that.
Well, truth is defamation. But the issue is, but if I were to say so-and-so is a child molester and they weren't, then that would be something they could sue me over. The issue is, all that does, the only thing that per se stuff does is it removes your requirement that you have to show that you were harmed. It doesn't negate your obligation to have the thing be false. And it doesn't negate what is negligence on the party of the publisher. So anyway, so they're going through all these details, and then here's where we get to the interesting part. First off, what they're actually doing is throwing the First Amendment out the window. If this court allows them to take a case to trial, a defamation case to trial, over calling what was going on in Kalamazoo a coup d'etat, then suddenly a lot of people are going to be exposed to really bad legal problems. So
Right.
they're talking about this, they're citing all this case history, and how especially political speech is where strict scrutiny comes in. And this is where the courts say you have to show, like, this is a very extreme case, where core political speech is expressed in traditional public forums, such as streets, sidewalks, parks, and other venues, traditional devoted to public assembly and social debate. And so there you go. So making the statement that someone has, quote, violated my constitutional rights is core political speech. This is what they were suing them over.
Yeah, defamation per se was not in the original motion, though. So
Right. Yep, and they're going to get to that too.
okay.
Yeah, Karen says Pritchett-Evans and Harris use the word coup so many times in their own speech that the term has literally almost lost its meaning. They are do as I say, not as I do. Exactly.
That's absolutely right, and that's in every social media post. It's everywhere they go. It's always a coup. Everything's a coup to them.
Yep. Anyway, so they point this out here. Plaintiffs are now arguing, and this court is allowing it, that such a statement is defamation per se and that alleges the crime of voter fraud or criminal deprivation of civil rights. This court's been provided. When they say essential tools to protect First Amendment rights, they mean they're referring to, we've made the argument, here's what these cases are, you should be relying on. Yesterday, so here we go. So this is a brief motion filed Thursday for a hearing last Wednesday. The court simply looked to the amended complaint for a vague, non-specific reference to a claim that someone had violated the constitutional right without analyzing the First Amendment. So now March 7th, 2 days ago. This is Thursday. This is, well, let's just read this for a second here. Plaintiff's amended complaint is an awful example of proper litigation pleading standards. It should be used in law schools across Michigan as an example of how not to plead a defamation case. Plaintiff's attorney has acknowledged in court that it is poorly drafted. The court has acknowledged in court that it is poorly drafted. Yet somehow this case miraculously continues. What has happened in court on Tuesday, March 7th. Okay, wait a second. Hold on. This must mean Thursday.
Yeah.
Okay, so hearing Wednesday morning, this filed Wednesday afternoon, right? No, hearing Thursday, this filed later that same day, Thursday. Cannot go unanswered. Man, this is a ballsy move, honestly. You're like telling the judge, what are you doing here? You should have thrown this case out months ago. We're at trial coming up here.
No.
It demonstrates this court's strange desire to allow this case to continue when no legal, actually recognizable claim exists. That's like, it worked, but that's like, there's a saying in law, we've used it on our stream multiple times. When the facts are on your side, pound the facts. When the law is on your side, pound the law. If neither is on your side, pound the table. It almost sounds like that, but somehow they got through it because they were like to the judge, yeah, this is so crazy wrong what you're doing right now.
Well, and the thing is, Adam, you can correct me on this if I'm wrong. We're talking about elected officials here, and political speech is the highest form of free speech in the United States, is it not?
Well, yeah, and the issue is, so there the question is, when you say public officials, is a party official a public official? Well, the issue is not, is there a public official? Is there a, what's the word? Someone who is, well, it's like a public person. What's the word I'm looking for? It used to originally apply to government officials. It's now been expanded to apply to celebrities. Public figures is the word they use.
Yeah. Yes.
So when you have a defamation case against a public figure, you have a high, or more accurately, when a public figure brings a defamation case against someone who's talking smack about them, they have a higher burden to show a reckless disregard for the truth. Which typically means like you knew the statement was false when you made it. So, for example, like if I was to say, something, well, I was going to say something nasty about Gretchen Whitmer or Dana Nessel, but you gotta be careful with
Let's
them.
not do that right now.
But the
You'll
point
get in
being,
trouble.
a higher burden to prove than an ordinary person would, because you can't easily claim, for example, like that me talking smack about Gretchen Whitmer is going to harm her reputation the way you could have say I was attacking a private person using my platform, and now they're getting all these complaints. They have a much lower burden to show that I was harming them than that they would have to show if they were a public person.
Or like 40 million MAGA supporters are terrorists from Joe Biden's State of the Union address.
Yeah, see, they're yeah, exactly. The fact that they weren't specifically named. But you're right. They should have a much higher. They would have more protection from defamation than a politician themselves would. Anyway, so they go on here. Prior to filing this case, plaintiff's attorney sent a demand letter. It does not mention defamation per se or any crime. They filed this amended complaint May 19th. Plaintiffs have repeatedly pointed to paragraph 60 to argue they satisfied the pleading standards, but they never use the term defamation per se, never use the term crime. And so then there was we can skip past the discovery stuff. The point being, the plaintiffs keep changing their story. So there's this back and forth about discovery. There's now a new issue. January 15th, the plaintiffs file a response well after the close of discovery. Now, for the first time, plaintiffs raised a new issue. Now they're starting to talk about this is defamation per se. January 15th, on a lawsuit filed May 19th of the past year. And now they're talking about this per se defamation stuff, meaning on its face, the fact that they were talking about the fact that they used the word coup, that just makes it automatically defamatory. No need to show damages because it's defamation per se. So now here's this is now January 22nd. Mr. Thomas is the attorney for Sabrina Pritchett-Evans. Plaintiff's attorney acknowledged how poorly his complaint was written. Judge, I could say a lot of things in regards to how how the damages and things have worked out. I have no time in this complaint. Did I ever say that there were damages to them as far as the economic damages under the regular statute? The Perno says this is a false statement. The amended complaint demands compensatory, incidental, non-economic, and punitive damages. They quote him more and more and more, and so the Perno is saying they keep changing their stories. Now they're quoting the court here. I don't know if I want to read this all. Probably don't. I don't think we should. This is a long transcript. Anyway, so now on February 16th, less than 1 month ago, the court entered an order that states this case shall proceed to trial as to the limited issue of defamation per se. So Sabrina and her attorney got what they wanted. Now the case is going to trial on the claim that a coup d'etat constitutes defamation. And so then they talk about this motion that they filed to limit it to talking about what a crime could be. But then there's a lot of back and forth about the jury instructions. They're getting ready to go to trial over this. There's a hearing on March 1st. The defendant's attorney, that's Matt DePerno, inquired whether plaintiff's attorney would send a draft of his proposed jury instructions. Plaintiff's attorney agreed to send the draft on Monday, and the court instructed plaintiff's attorney to do so timely. 5:01 Monday of this week. DePerno sends an email to Sabrina's lawyer saying, I've been waiting patiently today so I can review and make proposed corrections. It's now past 5:01. Are you going to send it to me or not? When can I expect it? See Exhibit 4. Plaintiff's attorney, 11 minutes later, 5:12 p.m., miraculously attaches proposed jury instructions and verdict form in a PDF version that says I've attached what the jury instructions should be. And of course, the reason why they do this is because they want they want to have the jury instructions written in the manner most favorable to Sabrina Pritchett-Evans. So they run out the clock, and then as soon as it's the last minute, yeah, we want the jury to see this. And this goes on and on and on. So now DePerno, and again, I'm not going to read through this whole thing. He now goes to this hearing on March 6th, which is Wednesday. Well, okay, so now we're on. This must have been like a Wednesday, a Thursday, and a Friday thing. Wednesday. Yeah. The parties attended a hearing designed as a settlement conference, but the conversation morphed into the plaintiff's objection to the order without motion or without notice. For the first time, plaintiffs claimed their defamation per se argument was not limited to voter fraud, as they said before. Now includes federal crimes. So this is apparently all untrue. And now, March 6th, Wednesday, the court committed palpable error when it changed its order and allowed plaintiffs to argue a claim under federal statute. The court rules provide guidance to courts in stating the reconsideration is appropriate if there's palpable error by the court, hence this motion. So, I mean, DiPerno's going hard at this judge on this stuff because he's like, this is all wrong. This case should have been dismissed months ago, Judge. And so he says, this case is the poster child for why rules exist. Any party engaging in gamesmanship or holding back trial surprises risks various sanctions if a trial court determines the initial disclosure or supplemental disclosure was incomplete or not timely made. And so there's more citations here. The court's decision was clearly erroneous, as was its decision on January 22nd. The court said it was looking at other documents in order to understand the claims made. This is the throw shit at the wall and see what sticks thing, folks. Anyway.
Pretty much.
Yeah. I've been going on for a little bit here, but we're almost through this whole thing. Go ahead, Amber. This is the second to last page. We're almost through this, but go ahead.
Go for it. No, go.
Right. So DiPerno says, yesterday's ruling sent a chilling effect on all political speech and political rhetoric. Presumably now, any person who claims that Governor Gretchen Whitmer has violated their constitutional rights, or any candidate who runs against her or any other Democratic incumbent now can be sued in Kalamazoo County and must face a jury because such ambiguous language would be construed by this court as voter fraud or a criminal deprivation of civil rights. This is a dangerous, slippery slope. Defendant specifically requests this court reconsider this dangerous path. If this was the standard, the plaintiffs could also be sued every time they have accused people of violating the Constitution. See Exhibit 7, which I assume is Sabrina calling things a coup. Plus 3 additional videos accusing the Kalamazoo County Sheriff Fuller of violating people's constitutional rights. Wherefore, defendants request this court grant this emergency motion for rehearing reconsideration and enter for an order striking any reference to voter fraud. So that's where things stood as of yesterday morning. What's this? What's this footnote? This is weird. Footnote 2.
I know, I was looking at that. What was that footnote? I couldn't read it. It was weird, though.
The court stated that it was looking at other documents in order to understand the claims made in the amended complaint. Footnote. The court can and does rely on other pleadings in its assessment concerning the factual dispute of the nature of the statement.
That has to be from the transcript because that's how a transcript would be written.
But it's not cited.
I know, that's weird though because that's how a transcript would be written.
It's just basically Kelly going. I think it's basically Kelly going to trial because the EC was dismissed earlier. So
yeah, I'm not sure why it was written that way. If not, it should have had quotation marks. Should have had a citation. Otherwise, it just looks like I don't know.
Yeah, it just looks like gibberish, right? It's weird.
Yeah, but. I mean, the basic issue, my general takeaway from that whole document is DiPerno's like, this has gotten so far out of control that I've got to like almost be like, Judge, what are you doing, man? You know? And apparently that worked. So Jason, you saw what happened today. Or not today, yesterday. What happened? Yeah.
So basically, Kelly called me up and, hey, do you want to go to court? And it's like, yeah, sure. I've got nothing else going on. Let's go. So we went down there and they were in recess from the morning. So they picked back up in the afternoon and they were basically just trying to attach some MCL with fraud in it to election fraud or whatever. And Matt DiPerno just basically stands up and said, Your Honor, I move we dismiss this case. They don't have anything to bring against us, so how do I defend nothing that they're bringing against us? Because they were just sitting over there clicking their phones trying to find an MCL to attach to voter fraud.
Yeah, it's so weird. I mean, the thing that boggles my mind too is like the whole going into the weeds on defamation stuff. when that was originally the afterthought of the original lawsuit. Like the bulk of the original suit was, we're suing to say that Sabrina was improperly removed or some precinct delegates were improperly removed. The court said, nope, that's not an issue for us. And then this defamation thing, which was, I mean, it was almost like I don't know, like my dad's a patent lawyer, and he says, what often happens in courts is the judge is inclined to go towards the middle of whatever the two parties are in and try to, I mean, obviously sometimes one side's always right and one side's always wrong, but more often the judge is like looking for some kind of middle ground somewhere, which is how. Well, I mean,
it almost looks. Go ahead.
I was just to say that's how leftism operates too. Is they're like, we demand this, and then you give them, the compromise is you get half of what you asked for, and they've taken a little bit. You keep taking, and they keep taking. And it seems like that's how this case kind of played out. Like they started with 4 outrageous claims. Okay, well, let's dismiss the 3 claims that are outrageous, and let's look at this. Let's look at this other one, which should have also been dismissed forever ago, because the only thing they were talking about is that calling this a coup is defamatory. Which, I mean, usually defamation is like the hardest kind of case to prove. Period, because you have to show, all these different elements, malice, damage, etc. All these things, not easy to get through. But
this whole.
Sorry, you're funny, John. Can you highlight that?
You're talking about this? Yeah.
That's hilarious. Sorry, go on.
It's all on YouTube, John.
John said you'd have to.
Ladies and gentlemen, now that I was removed from the chair position, I've taken a job as an announcer. Ladies and gentlemen, now that I was removed from the chair position, I have taken.
All right, that's enough of that. That was obviously not Christina, folks. That was clearly any similarity to any person's living or dead is purely coincidental.
So you don't get sued for defamation.
Hey, nowhere in that clip did that imply it was anybody in particular.
Hey, Adam, can you send Kelly that link to, we got another Kalamazoo EC member that would like to come on and talk a little bit more about this.
Well, I don't know who that person is, and I don't have their email address, so why don't you forward it to them if you've got it?
Well, that's just if you want to send it to Kelly, but I can forward it to him.
I've already sent it to Kelly. That's how she gave it to you.
Yeah.
So yeah, if there's anyone else who wants to join us on the stream, they're welcome to. But anyway, so the upshot of all this is DePerno just got the judge to snap out and was like, okay, yeah, you're right, this case is crap. And this case, as I understand, this case was going to go to trial next week. Like they're going to have jury selection to have a jury consider whether or not calling something a coup could be defamatory. That's so bizarre. Karen says it appears that Pritchett-Evans and Harris filed this to weaponize the judicial system against Kelly, Sackett, and harasser. Of course, it's exactly what this was.
Absolutely,
that was exactly what this was. Let's hope the court recognizes and awards them sanctions too for all this stuff, because that's what this was. It was judicial abuse.
And oddly enough, we're in an election year. Go figure. And it almost seems like this whole case was just to muddy the waters for the Republican Party, because we should be right now working on getting Republicans lined up, getting donations in, and all of our fundraising has come to a halt because of this litigation, this lawfare that they've brought against us.
Yeah, this is terribly damaging. All this stuff has been, and it's unfortunate because the courts in general tend to be. It's tough to get courts to award damages. Michigan, I think, is one of the few states that does not have anti-SLAPP laws, and I think that's for those who don't know, SLAPP is an acronym for Strategic Lawsuit Against Public Participation. It's when you bring a meritless defamation claim to try to get people to stop talking shit about you, and that you should be entitled to at least attorney's fees in a SLAPP motion. And a lot of states have this. Michigan does not for some reason, and so they have to show to the judge, hey, this was a case brought in bad faith by people that had no intention other than to do harm to us. This should have been dropped months and months ago. The whole defamation thing was an afterthought. It wasn't even part of their wasn't even the major thing in their lawsuit. It was an add-on just to bring additional complications to this, and that's a legal tactic too, is just forcing people to spend all of their money in attorney fees. Lauren Turner says
that's another thing. Yeah,
lawfare on the part of known Democrat disruptors attempting to drain our coffers, cripple our county parties, and confuse and discourage our active hard workers. Yep.
Yeah. Our only job, one of our primary jobs in the Republican Party, is to get Republicans elected and raise money. This lawfare that they've brought against us does neither.
Yeah, there was an interesting comment from let me see if I can find it here. It's from Scott McMahon on Twitter, and he makes this point. Let's see if I can find it here. I got it here. Hold on, let me just share the screen. He makes this point here. Karamo's removal is a big step, but in a sense, it was a graduation for these people. Now, Deb Ross, Lori Skiba, Brennan Jacobazzi, Phil Halloran, Ken Byer, Joe Moss, Dan Bonamie, Tucker Randy, Sabrina Pritchett-Evans, Captain Kim Harris, Samantha Strayer, Joel Studebaker, et al. Are emerging from under KK's shadow to become their own leaders. They will do this with the help of other organizations in the state that have been growing and active among the grassroots and that have been infiltrated by these people. I will be reporting more on these specific organizations in the coming weeks. Looking forward to it, Scott.
Yeah.
Michigan needs to get delegates to. Huh?
Was that to the event coming up? Did you see that flyer to the event that's like... Yes, that's exactly to that. Yeah, I saw that today. That's insane.
What a waste of time.
Yeah.
They have followers, though. That's the scariest part, is they have followers.
The scary part is we have legislators doing. Look at there's a legislator on there, Steve Carra. I mean,
yeah.
I can't comment on that either.
Let's worry about Michigan, not the Sekia Weiser building. So,
yeah, Steve Carra is someone who's been a guest on the show multiple times. You can look up on our archive how many times. And
you plugging that. That's awesome.
I don't know I don't know how and why he's been taken in by this. We talked about this a while ago. But
then I'm not sure, but I don't think District 4, I don't think Ken Byer has any bylaws written yet. It's been almost a year now.
It's been over a year.
Well,
we need to get bylaws written. I mean, before I was voted off,
that would hold him to a standard, and then he could
I know. We can use a old, outdated book of Robert's Rules out of Joel Studebaker's underwear drawer or something. So,
yeah, I mean, I think, and just to be honest, I think for like representatives like Steve Carra, this has become their constituency because they've always from the get-go. I mean, it's noble to not be part of the Lansing establishment, to not be someone who is beholden to the corporate special interest in Lansing. But then when the grassroots has a split, that's a time when you have to say what's the right thing to do, what's courageous and what's the not. And, this is a decision that we had to face. I've built my reputation with Rescue Mission up over the years, and we had to alienate a substantial chunk of our supporters to say, no, sorry, folks, this is what Christine's doing is the wrong thing. The people following her are going down the wrong rabbit hole. And this
hey, Adam, can you let Dan in? I believe he's in the waiting room.
He is not. He would be on my screen if he was.
Okay. All right.
You can just forward him the link again or something.
Yeah, we did.
Okay. Yeah. Barbie says Neil Frisky has always supported KK. Well, yeah, but a lot of us in the beginning. The issue was when this got just completely out of hand.
We all wanted her to succeed. I mean, we all did.
Yeah. Dan Bonamie, by the way, since he's on this fly here.
Oh boy.
If you guys saw this. This is incredible. I saw this. This is posted on Facebook. This is from Dan Bonamie. He actually had made up his own certificate saying he's a national delegate.
I didn't get one of those, and I'm going to Milwaukee. Where do they give those out at?
You didn't get your certificate with the gold?
No, were those in the ballots that Ken Byer brought in from Battle Creek?
Oh, I saw that.
I don't know,
They
but
might
you
have
know
been.
what?
With his little posse right there to guard the
Right.
box.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, folks, the RNC rules say
Under one roof. One roof.
You have to, all of your national delegates have to be awarded under one roof. So, having it printed on this certificate here, the convention of the first district was held in Houghton Lake, which is not a recognized anything. It's probably not going to go over well.
Details, those pesky details that get in the way.
Yeah. But if you guys want to see something, this is honestly, this makes me very sad. This quote, this comment here. So proud of you, my grandson. Granny. He deceived his own granny. He's gonna be like, why isn't Dan Bonamie at the national convention as a delegate?
He'll probably be there. He'll be there, like taking pictures.
He'll be looking in through the window.
Yeah. This is signed by Daire Rendon. That's another. Now, here's the thing. For those who don't know, Daire Rendon is Emma. It's cosplay. Daire Rendon.
Yeah.
Daire Rendon is one of the people charged in the electors. Not a lawsuit; it's a criminal charge. And in all seriousness, that is a terrible crime perpetrated by Dana Nessel against these people, because they do have a right to assert their claims. That is true. However, it's also true that perhaps this is part of her legal defense. Because, and in all seriousness, folks, a defense has been raised that they genuinely believe they have the right to do what they're doing. I believe they have the right to do what they're doing, but they might actually get some expert to say, look, Your Honor, this woman believes everything she wants to believe. She's delusional, Your Honor. She can't possibly have had criminal intent behind this stuff. I could honestly believe that is a legal strategy, but it probably isn't. We do have Dan Koshelnik.
Koshelnik.
Okay.
Koshelnik.
That was pretty good.
Dan, nice to have you in our stream tonight.
Dan Koshelnik here from the Kalamazoo. Do you hear me?
Got to take you off mute, Dan.
Please introduce yourself, Dan. You're from the Kalamazoo GOP?
I'm from the Kalamazoo GOP Executive Committee, right there.
Sign language. Hit the mic button.
He's on. We can hear you fine.
Oh, you can hear me? Okay.
Yeah. So were you in court at any of these events we just talked about, Dan? Did you see this all go down in real time?
I watched court yesterday, and it's been really interesting to watch this process. And then, of course, I've been following some of your shows talking about it. So that's kind of strange because you're talking about the people I know and the things that they're going through. And
we appreciate you coming on to give us your firsthand perspective. Yeah,
well, the firsthand perspective is that it's all so unfortunate that this is where we're at here as a party. That's really the ultimate determination that I've come to, that this is unfortunate, but we are here, and it's been fascinating to watch. And it's been fascinating to watch Matt DePerno work, and as he was our former Attorney General nominee. And it's been very interesting for me because I'm not from a legal background, but I do enjoy this process, and it's sort of like chess, and it's an interesting process to watch. That's definitely for sure. So yesterday, the basic problem that the opposing party had, the plaintiffs, was that they couldn't find a statute that was actually criminal that we had accused them of.
Yeah.
Because defamation requires a very, as you were talking about, it's a very tall order to prove defamation. One of the stipulations is that you have to prove that, we called them criminals in some way. We never did call them criminals. And, just because a reference may have allegedly been made that there was a hostile type takeover effort, whatever you want to call it, that doesn't mean it's necessarily criminal. If you're in a private organization, people take over private organizations all the time. They do it in business. They do it in you know, in
Yeah, I mean,
five
it's not enough, especially in a public figure context. It's not enough just to say like Gretchen Whitmer's a criminal. Like that's just political hyperbole. It has to have a certain level of specificity. And this stuff's all been ironed out endlessly in defamation law in all 50 states. And they
I mean, what they're doing is basically like somebody going to the VFW and saying, you know, we're going to take this over, and it's a private organization. We have bylaws, we have rules, we have ways of doing things, and what they're doing is it's not the right way.
Yep.
It's extra party.
Yeah.
Now the defamation charge, of course, as you were talking about, was the final lingering claim from our first lawsuit. The first three were thrown out a long time ago. We feel that this one should have been thrown out probably a long time ago, but it did linger on. They squeaked by previously, and the judge let it stand for, in my opinion, too long. And then finally, it got so ridiculous. Matt was in court saying, there's no statute here, Judge. We don't even know what we're defending against. And
yeah, that was great.
He stood up and motioned for a dismissal, and the plaintiff's attorney called for a recess. They came back in. They gave it one more try. They threw some kind of common law statute at the thing, like, as if we accused them of a common law violation, which applied to stealing property. And the judge just kind of, said that this isn't happening, guys. And so that was it. He called it. He said, I'm gonna grant the defendant's motion for dismissal. So,
yeah,
there we
Who
are.
are the lawyers on the other side, though? That's like, that blows my mind. Like Dan Hartman, like, who are these people that defend this and think that they're good lawyers?
Well, a lot of times they can just be grifters. In fact, one thing this case reminds me of, this is one of the first things that really got me into podcasts in general, is this guy. There used to be a podcast I used to listen to, and the two guys on it had a big fight, and then one of them sued the other for defamation, and it became known as the lawsuit. One of them was, this guy Maddox. He has a website called The Biggest Web Page in the Universe or something like that. So they filed this suit, and he filed suit against his former co-host. And then he filed suit against some guests of his show. He filed suit against the co-host company. He filed suit against the guests of the show's companies. He filed suit against like this whole galaxy of people. And the case was eventually dropped. It got dismissed by the judge. Eventually, the lawyer who represented the plaintiff in this case, this was part of his strategy, was we're going to draw these people in. It did actually damage the defendants badly. Like the guest of the show got fired from his job just because his employer got sued by these con artists. And then, see, this guy knows the story. I love Ricada. He's based at, Ricada Law covered this lawsuit, which is what I've kind of started doing almost myself. And he initially made his name for himself covering how the ins and outs of this insane lawsuit, which there's now all these case documents about. You click on the link here. They still to this day go to the original suit, and I forget which one it is, but in one of these, the defendants actually have their paragraph starting with letters that spell out the words "cuck lawsuit" in them. That's how insane this got. But then finally, after this case goes through all this stuff, the lawsuit finally gets dismissed, and finally the defendants get their day in court to demand sanctions. And guess what happens? The judge retires. So the new judge here in this case has never done anything about this for the first time. And he's like, oh, well, did the judge do anything about this? No. Okay, I'm not either. Dismissed. Goodbye. And so these poor defendants had to spend tens of thousands of dollars on this case. And it turned out the lawyer for the plaintiffs had a long history of doing this exact same thing. He would file suits against multiple unrelated defendants, drag them all in, hope to shake them down with a settlement. And if they fought the case instead of settling out of court and being shaken down, then he would say he's had an irreconcilable breach of irreconcilable differences with his clients. He's got to remove himself from the suit. His client's got to pay, and he walks away. I mean, that's the way these shysters operate. And it's not all that different from the way some of the people in the other parts of the Karamo orbit have operated either, where they go after their clients when their client's case doesn't go well. And it's it's messed up, but it's the way that goes. So,
well, it seems to be public knowledge at this time that an attempt was made at a settlement when it looked like the plaintiffs were not going to be victorious. An offer was made out of good faith from the KGOP to try to find a reasonable settlement. And unfortunately, they passed on that. They insisted on trying to go to trial. And they obviously were determined that they were going to be victorious in the trial, even though they hadn't found a statute that fit the claim for defamation. And we'll just have to see how that all turns out. Again, also unfortunate. But for those across Michigan that have been hearing, oh, the KGOP did this, the KGOP did that. Many attempts have been made at outreach. I myself, as these people who maybe some of them, it pains me that, you know, we were in the trenches together and all this sort of stuff. They know that I called them and tried to make a resolution, as did others. And so here we are. First case is now over, and we have a second case, which is kind of the big one, if you will, which is the actual claim on being the party of people who are not the party.
Yeah, and we've covered that case to some extent. That's its own nightmare, in that what's happened in that case is that they've tried to use the same judge's own ruling against him. They said, well, judge, you dismissed this case saying that the party had the right to do whatever it wanted. Well, now they're saying we don't. It's like, well, no, actually, that's not what happened. Because in that first case, the judge says in his decision, he says, well, there might be a question about whether the bylaws were followed properly, but you guys didn't argue that. So too bad.
Yeah, they did.
And now they say, hey, there is a bylaws violation this time here, and we are arguing it. But they're trying to convert this. I'm sorry, go ahead, Dan.
The second case, much like the Kent County case, is entirely basically off of bylaws. However, there's two perspectives. The consideration is the group claiming to be the KGOP, are they in the party or are they not in the party? And if they're in the party, then we believe we have a clear case that the bylaws were violated in Matt counted 15 to 16 different ways that the bylaws were violated in their fake claim to be the party. If they're not in the party, then they likely committed various crimes, such as perhaps identity theft or wire fraud. They sent out claims over public wires, claiming to be the party, things that we warned them not to do. We asked them not to do. We told them it would not be a good decision to do that. They did it anyway.
And it's very well argued the way Matt laid it out. He was like, look, if they're part of the party, then there's bylaws problems. If they're not, then there's torts. So either which way, this is the thing that the court's going to take up, because
we do not have a good tort state either, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, but the bottom line of it is, and this I think came out very well in the Kent County case, is you can't just say because an organization is political that therefore bylaws don't apply. Like the same rules that affect contracts, the same rules that say you have a nonprofit organization that's, you know, raising money to save the pandas. If the CEO of that organization is removed by the board, then if there's a disputation of whether that was proper or not, you go to the bylaws. The same as with the political organization. You can't just say, oh, it's a political organization, therefore we can't look at this.
That's right.
That's what they're trying to say.
Yeah, just because it's political doesn't mean it doesn't have a structure. And it clearly has a structure. All of our parties have a structure. The county parties have an independent structure from the state. So the intertwining of the county concern with the state concern has also been quite entertaining and fascinating to watch, because of now that the Kent County injunction has been granted, well, that, you know, as you know, that makes everything after January 6th null and void. And so that had a direct impact on our case. And it'll be interesting. Let's just say that.
Yeah. The thing I would say too is, you know, with this whole defamation case and the issue of sanctions is, at the end of the day, there was virtually no disputation over the facts. This was purely a case about the law, and it should have been resolved by the judge over that a long time ago. And what these guys tried to do over and over and over again is drag it out by changing their story, changing their claims, trying to bamboozle the judge. And finally, the judge said, okay, no, this has gone on far enough. I ain't having this anymore. Well, now you should go back and say, actually, you know what? Every single thing these people tried to do was in bad faith. And every single bit of it was to waste our time, snare our organization, snarl us in these stupid lawsuits, damage us. I mean, we had a petition in my county, Washington County, 100 miles east of you guys. And we had one of these operatives, Strayer, handing out a petition saying, we signed this saying that we condemn the Kalamazoo County GOP. I mean, they were actively mobilizing against you guys in all across the state. And
we had our own district trying to break us down. I mean, Ken Byer in District 4. I spent 8-9 months in District 4 committee before I was voted off for wearing a Matt DePerno shirt, blowing a horn, and reading Dr. Seuss books. I mean, these people are not for real. They cannot be for real.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they have formed what is commonly called an echo chamber, and they're only listening to themselves. So when they tell themselves, well, we're in the right, and the judge and everybody else will see it this way, they have been believing it a little too much. And so they needed to obtain some outside counsel, which they have not done. And that's where we're going.
They came out of the gate when they got elected, going after Bill Huizenga, going after Matt Hall, trying to censure everybody in Kalamazoo County and the surrounding area, and then they just worked their way right on down to the local GOP.
Yes, the proclamations out of District 4 against Kalamazoo over things that most of District 4, God bless them, they really don't actually understand what happened or both sides of what happened, which is a crucial element. They, proclamation after proclamation, meaningless statement after meaningless statement, they turned, people against us who have never met any of us. And
right.
It's really been.
What they did on January 13th was appalling. And every single person that was voting to expel members of state committee who they'd never met, who weren't there to speak in their defense for charges that were plainly frivolous, these accusations of a conflict of interest that were just completely nonsensical. I mean, this is the equivalent of a lynch mob. That's what these people are.
Well, I mean, when I got voted off District 4, it was SP's Marxist quick trial. This has to be done tonight. Quick trial.
Yeah. John Smith says, I need to grow a beard like Dan. First of all, why do you care about my facial hair so much, John? You can't stop talking about it. Also, where's your beard, buddy?
I'm sorry, John Smith has been my favorite part of this whole show tonight.
Emma says, don't you know hype manus conquers all? Don't know if I spelled it right. You spelled it as well as they ever did in their plea.
But I mean, we have to talk about where this all started.
Got way closer.
This all started last year or the year before when MIGOP had its own little function or whatever they had, and they saw it was successful. They saw that the crazies outnumbered the sane people, and they got their way. I mean, we all were at that convention.
Well, but ironically, as I remember it, the contingent that the body of delegates, state delegates, voted to be seated was the one that won the court case, as opposed to the one that was unilaterally recognized by Weiser. So in the Kalamazoo case, that phenomenon in our opposition's mind has flipped because this Karamo was encouraging our splinter group to do what they were doing, calling fake conventions and holding, making fake declarations that they just all of a sudden were the party. And they sided with that, which was entirely the opposite of how all those people voted during that state convention when the MIGOP contingent was in there. So we feel pretty strong that we have the bylaw case. Again, if they're in the party, if they're considered by the judge to be in the party, then we feel strong about that. If they're considered by the judge, which we feel to be out of the party because their memberships to the party have all been revoked, they've done things that have violated the bylaws to the point where unfortunately we had to say that you're not members in good faith anymore. You're not meeting the qualifications to be members in good faith. And so therefore you are coming at us from extra party and you're making a claim to be us, to be all of a sudden we had a group just putting out emails saying they're the executive committee of Kalamazoo. a very radical step to take.
Yeah.
And
Well, especially with MCL saying what it says.
there can
Yeah,
only
too much other law and order stuff.
That's right. The party of law and order. And here we are. So,
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead.
I think Scott McMahon has nailed this. That this is not just a bunch of people with a grievance. This is an organized effort that is Marxist in its nature. And
yeah, absolutely.
They are I mean, one of the things I talked about this a long time ago. If you go back to my streams years ago, I was saying, one of the binaries I think we need to be talking to people about is the distinction between the creators and the destroyers. And the conservatives are people that start companies, build things, try to grow wealth, and the radical left are destroyers in their nature. They want to burn down cities, destroy customs, destroy culture, destroy history. They are fundamentally destructive in who they are. And if you look at the people who are involved on all these issues that we've been having these fights over with the Republican Party, these people never do anything. They never donate. They never go out and knock on doors except to organize, to build their own radical movements. And it's, Karen says they're radicalized chaos agents. I was watching something where someone was talking about, maybe it was, I don't know if it was Scott McMahon or not, but someone was talking about Trotskyism and how the part of that whole ethos is permanent revolution. It's always just burn it down, burn it down. Yeah, Melanie says Scott McMahon's a godsend. I agree. He's really put excellent words on the page there. And that's, go ahead.
So one of the phenomenons that we've seen during this process is that the various contingents that seem to surround the Christina Karamo mindset, really what they're claiming to champion with the mantra of the delegates and all this sort of stuff is pure democracy. And so pure democracy always falls to tyranny. Well, why? Because people eventually will vote in somebody who will give them things. They will vote in someone who gives them power that they have long desired. And I'm a little conflicted on the theory that everybody's a Marxist and everybody's conspiring. I do believe that there are probably some that are plants, that are literally Democrats that decided, hey, all these delegates are going into the Republican Party, so we're going to just jump right in there and start yelling and screaming.
Yeah, I to your point, I just want to underscore that too, because I know some of them. Like, I know people that mean well, that have been taken in by this. There's no question there's some people that mean well and are doing what they see as the right thing, but that's the nature of the sophistication of how this narrative has been constructed. That it's a black and white world of the evil globalist establishment versus the true and righteous grassroots. And it's like, no, actually there's multiple sides of this issue. It's not just two.
And after 2020 and all that we went through with COVID and everything else, and then the election debacle and everything else, these people, the people who are not the conspirators, are desperate for a solution. And so they grapple on to any hope of a rallying cry or some way to strong arm power back to the people, or however they're conceiving it. And that comes from a real place of pain, and it comes from a real place of human anguish. And so my heart goes out for everybody who is in that situation and has perhaps become confused, that our job is supposed to be to champion the republic, the structure of the republic. That means with the tiered levels of authority, such as the state committee that voted legitimately to remove Christina Karamo, it appears, according to judge's injunction. That's our structure. These are the same people that in 2020 were absolutely beside themselves, that the legislators certified the election when there were very, very serious questions about how accurate the election process was. They were saying this is a republic. And the legislators have the authority not to certify an election because of our republic structure, our Republican structure. And here we had the same scenario in our own party, that the state committee elected by the state delegates has the authority to remove the chair, who is not an almighty queen or an almighty king. And so they did so, and they exerted republicanism on the Republican Party. And that is really falling on deaf ears right now. that is the example of the Republican structure put into work, put into practice, and we did it in our own house.
Yeah, very, very well said. And it reminded me of what Stephanie Jacobson said on my stream last week too. Which is, yeah, these people are, I mean, they feel with every bit of justification that the situation is very grim for liberty, that we're in a very desperate situation. It's very bad how things are going. The radical left is reworking the institutions of power to make it even harder to ever get back to where we were, 2 years ago, with all the election fraud they've been ramming through. But instead of recognizing that we now need to work even harder and be even more diligent and even more rigorous in our analysis of events, it's like they become more desperate for some simple way out. And it was, we'll just elect Christina and everything will be okay, or there's different variations of this theme. There's always been we'll have the Article 5 convention that's going to fix the system forever. There'll always be there's always going to be seductive ways to and a big part of this is excuse me, we can just take back the party, we'll rewrite the bylaws, we'll create a Republican constitution that's going to ensure there'll never be a rhino allowed to run for office ever again, stuff like this. It's like, no, it doesn't work that way, guys. It doesn't. The only way that we save our country is with lots and lots and lots of shoe leather work, and then you know what? Then even more. That's just the way that goes.
Well, they don't ever put into perspective that, okay, we've thrown some of these legislators into the fire pit with the Democrats. Let's send them some backup. They have to go along to get along because they're outnumbered. That's where we need to get out there, get elected, get people elected to give them some reinforcements. And we need to do that at every level, the county level, the city level, probably all the way down into the school city council, the way the schools are.
That's right. No single Republican will ever vote 100% the way that you want them to vote. So you need a team. You need as many of them as you can get so that we get a herd going on and the herd charges and then get out the way. That's how it has to function.
Yeah. And even those that do vote the way you want sometimes go off and do other things that are bad for unrelated reasons. Which we just
that's a whole other question.
Yeah. And that's there's policy issues and then there's political questions too. And unfortunately, it's few and far between you find people that are good at doing both of those things.
So I blame a lot of the phenomenon that we're watching too on the screens. And so what I mean by that is that people have been watching TV and computer screens for now their entire adult life, their entire, 40, 50-year-old people, 60-year-old people who are in the party and active and have watched screens their whole life. And when you see things happening on a screen, you disconnect it in your brain. And so what we have is a serious problem in our society. The media is oftentimes lying to them, and they know that they're lying. So they see them on the screen repeatedly lying, and then they start to just not believe anything that they see on the screen. So when the screen shows them an image of somebody in their own state party, oh, there's my, there's somebody in my state party who I should be on the same team with, because I see them only on the screen, I detach from that reality. My local congressman in my district who, may not 100% vote the way I want him to all the time, but really votes the way I would like him to most of the time and is part of the good guy team, I detach myself from him because I mostly only see him on TV reports and it's very distant. And I don't take the time to call his office or to really chat with his liaisons who in my district, District 4, Bill Huizenga, his liaisons are quite good. They go around to all the various meetings and they meet everybody and they update you as to what's happening in Congress. They talk about Huizenga being on the finance committee and all. We have, if you utilize that tool, you have a way to get into the congressman's ear, and that is productive for the party. Yes, he has a lot of voices in his ear, but this is where the power of the delegates is actually a thing. where you gather an entire room full of delegates or just party members or people stopping by for coffee, and you have an opportunity to talk to the congressman's liaison, maybe even the congressmen themselves, and you tell them what you think in a polite way, maybe even in an urging way, okay, but screaming never helps, and you try to be productive. But when you say as a district leader that no matter what, I'm going to work to get my congressman out of office, even to the point of voting for a Democrat or supporting the Democrat, that is not productive. And
who Bill Huizenga, who has done more in his first 5 minutes in office than Fred Upton has probably done his entire 40 years.
Yeah, I mean, to that I would say, I think you do have to hold your congressman to standards, even if you're worried about the Democrats taking office, because there is a lesser of two evils problem, which is that once you say, I'm just going to always vote for the Republican no matter what, then that's when they start. That's when they'll take you for granted and stop voting for your issues. And that's why they're always voting for massive budgets and voting for endless wars and voting for all these other things that are not popular with the public, but are popular with lobbyists. But I would also say there's people who have that job of holding lawmakers accountable, and those are people in issue-based political organizations. That's all well and good. When you're putting on the role of district chair, where the job is to reelect the congressman. If you're not going to do that job in good faith, you should resign. I think it's dishonorable to be a state chair or a district chair or a county chair and say, I'm going to pick and choose who I'd like to be the Republican. Now, I'd also say to that point, because I know the National Senatorial Republican Committee is putting their thumb on the scales in the U.S. Senate race. That's why you should never give them $1, because
thank you, Adam.
They are defrauding their donors, damaging the candidates in the race. That should really be a let the best man win situation. So they are dishonorable, in my humble opinion. The NRSC is.
And who's that candidate? Who's that candidate we don't want to vote for?
Deep state swamp rat named Mike Rogers.
Thank you. What are you?
Amber's funny.
So I would.
But anyway,
FYI, this is why I haven't come on recently, because my kids are crazy. They got bigger. I started this 2 years ago when he was like still on my lap in a baby thing, and now he's
get him some GI Joes.
They have those. They played with them already. What are you doing?
Get them more.
No, kids are what we need. There's a saying in church, if you're not crying, you're dying. So when you hear a kid crying in church, you got to remember that. If you don't have any kids crying in the background, your church is dying. And it's the same thing in our party and our country too.
Yeah.
So I would never
say, guys.
I would never say that any congressman is so, gloriously wonderful that no other American citizen could ever come along and be a better congressman. However, when you have a fairly successful congressman who really doesn't overly offend, then it's time to focus on the seats that are Democrat seats nearby, or on smaller local levels that you can turn your attention to. It's a matter of priorities.
Yeah, I agree with that. Before we go, I did want to, because this is in the thumbnail, so if I don't mention it, it will people be confused. So I do need to bring up one more thing that I was going to talk about today. In the GOP drama Queenery department, we do have this came a couple of days ago from Bernadette Smith, who did not win her race for RNC committee woman, but she has said, I am honored to be in the race for RNC committee woman for the Michigan GOP, which is long since no longer true. As promised, I will fight for you to ensure all voices are heard. Current update. Neither myself nor the other candidates in the race met the majority threshold to declare a winner. Too bad that wasn't what the rules said. We were both in the MIGOP state committee meeting. The results were not confirmed nor on the agenda. The winner of the RNC race has not been confirmed or declared by the MIGOP state committee. It's important that those in leadership committees positions in those running represent us on the RNC understand how the rules work. Oh, you understand how the rules work. Please see 3 images below for the blah, blah, blah. The path forward. Multiple MIGOP parliamentarians and party leadership are aware of the issues. Simply put, as of right now, there is no winner for the national committee woman race for MIGOP, except there is I am calling for the MIGOP to recognize the votes of the District 1 and District 4 caucuses that were held illegally on March 2nd. Thank you, Bernadette, for making it clear whose side you're on in this one.
Right.
I just want to say really fast that I'm not on Bernadette or Hemus. I love him. I love them both, but I just want to say that because they're both great people.
Well, Hima's going to Milwaukee. So is Dr. Rob Steele. So
Yes, and she's great.
Yeah, we'll see who gets seated. If I was a betting man, put on my Nostra D'Angeli hat again. I predict Hima Kalanagredi is going to be the RNC committee member for the next 4 years. But we'll see. We'll see. Maybe I'll be wrong. Wrong.
You're like you. What is it? Adam D. Not Nostradamus or whatever.
Nostra D'Angeli.
Yeah, you're very rarely wrong in your own mind.
Well, we shall see. We shall see. I make these predictions on stream. I'll see. I don't have the hat handy, but next time, maybe when it's official, I'll have the hat out and I'll have that fake beard stroke.
Highlight Barbie. Hi, Todd.
So it seems that you're able to the rules, which is why you're able to make these predictions. And so one might put together a logical conclusion that understanding the rules is helpful when you're trying to gain office inside a political party. And that's a problem. That's a real problem that we're dealing with. So yes, we had a fake district caucus in our own caucus claiming authority. We had one in D1. My understanding was there was even a District 1 caucus in Grand Rapids. It was just perhaps smaller than the District 4 caucus. But
they had one up. They had one up in Houghton Lake too, but I don't think anybody from Houghton Lake brought fraudulent ballots down to Grand Rapids and tried to pass them off as.
Yeah. John Smith says, with Kalamazoo and Hillsdale clearing up, what content will you have? ... Oh, don't worry, John. I'll have plenty. In fact, Barbara says, what's wrong with Mike Rogers? That might need to be its own stream. That
would be a great stream. I would be a star of that stream.
That stream will be coming one of these days.
And he's actually not the one to beat the Dems. He will lose to the Dems. I think he's a plant. Well, never mind. I won't go there. That's something I can talk about, though.
We will cover this in time on our own stream. In fact, by the way, folks, I'm thinking about streaming a lot more frequently. Well, maybe not so much more frequently as we've been in the last few weeks, but in general,
very frequent last week.
Yeah, it's been a lot of streams lately. But in general, like tomorrow night, we'll still have our weekly live stream to talk about Michigan topics that are not relating to the KK stuff, legislation, elections, that kind of thing. More regular streams on national.
Highlight Karen's comment, Adam, and then you say it because other one.
We may need to call Bernadette a wambulance.
No, not that one. No, that one.
Well,
and then you talk about that.
Well, we'll talk about that on a future stream. How about that?
But what if Karen doesn't listen on that future stream and she needs to hear it now, and I don't want to say it because I'm, who I am?
When is Sandy coming on here?
There you go.
I don't know. And I'm not firmly committed to. I've not given an endorsement yet. But we'll talk about that.
Okay, then I'll say it, Karen. Sandy Pensler's the best one to vote for the Senate race. I would say that regardless. I would say that regardless of anything.
Is there any full disclosure you might owe the audience on that one?
I may or may not work for him, but I would have said it not working for him still as the executive director of where I was previously, which I probably shouldn't say that anyway either, but he's the best one in the race.
Karamo, Pete, and Rogers are all Karamo I don't think would make the cut, but there's a certain fellow in her
smart enough to be in the CIA.
Seriously, John? Seriously, we all don't go there, John.
All right, no more doomers, and I think we're out of time for tonight, folks. We've covered these issues pretty well tonight. So tune in tomorrow. We will have our regular weekly live stream. Thanks, guys, for accompanying us on this kind of early 8 p.m. Saturday stream. Enjoy the rest of your evening. And we will see you guys tomorrow night. Until next time, as always. And by the way, thanks again for Jason and Dan being our first-time guests. We will have to add them to our little here.
Vote Jason Mickelborg for county commissioner.
Hey, there you go. You guys have
Put the dot right next to my name. Fill in the dot right next to my name.
There you go, Jason Mickelborg for Kalamazoo County Commission, I assume. So there you go. Yep. We will have to add you to the big list. And rescuemichigan.com.
That's amazing. I can't believe you did that, Adam.
We've had a lot of streams, a lot of guests. I mean, look at this, folks. I mean, yeah.
Me and Dan need our numbers to come up a little bit.
A lot of content.
We got one more case, so we're gonna have to come back. So
Right. I'm sure there'll be more court cases. So
it's what we do in Kalamazoo. Unfortunately,
always
lawfare.
Yep.
We keep
all right, guys.
Quite busy. So.
Yep. All right, guys. That's it for tonight. Until next time.
Good night, everybody.
Tomorrow. Thanks for all you guys do for liberty. Peace.